what's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? It's your boy Chris. It's another amazing episode of Financipation. This channel is all about making money. It's all about saving money. It's all about building generational wealth, and it's all about financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty. On this channel, everybody, I try to give you a six-figure MBA level worth of investing and financial knowledge for free here on YouTube. And the things that people typically spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn in grad school, I give it to you for free on Financipation. Also, please hit the notification button so you know when I drop new content, okay? So in this particular podcast, we're going to talk about things that used to define the middle class, but they no longer do. So with that, let's get started. The first thing that used to define the middle class, but no longer does, is owning a home. So I will start right off at the top of this one, okay? Back in the day, owning a home was a sign of the American middle class. It was literally proof that you had made it. However, today, with the cost of inflation, with people essentially crisscrossing the United States as far as their careers are concerned, stagnant wages, and the cost of housing in general, renting is honestly starting to become more and more of an attractive option for Gen Zers and millennials. Secondly, due to the amount of Americans retiring abroad, digital nomads, and the flexibility of renting versus owning, downsizing to smaller homes, and the ability to work literally anywhere in the world, the idea, everybody, of owning a home is not exactly what it used to be. It's not nearly as important to my generation as it was to my parents' generation. Third, the average home in America, according to Chase Schiller US National Home Pricing Index.com, shows that the average house in America only returns about a 3 to 5% return on your investment, whereas the average index fund over the last 50 years has returned roughly 11 to 12%. From 1972 to 2022. And also real estate investment trusts, which are essentially index funds that tracks commercial real estate as well as residential real estate, have averaged about 9 to 10% over the exact same time period. In other words, people, if you take the same amount of money that you would use to put down on a home and invest that into a total stock market index fund that tracks the entire US stock market, or into a real estate investment trust that tracks the entire indices for residential and commercial real estate, you would literally make 3 to 5 times more money over that same 30 to 40 year period. So the housing market, everybody, is not exactly what it used to be during my parents' or my grandparents' generations. For the record, I do truly believe that owning a home is still a phenomenal investment. But if you are not making the kind of money every month that you need to be making, renting is not necessarily a bad idea for a certain period of your life. The first thing that used to define the American middle class, but no longer does, is owning a home. Next, the next thing that used to define the American middle class, but no longer does, is buying or leasing a new car every year. Now, this is one of those things that absolutely blows my mind, because whenever I meet people that are still leasing cars in 2025, I honestly just want to smack them and say, how dumb can you be? Cars, everybody, especially leasing cars, is easily one of the dumbest things you can do in the year 2025, because you are literally financing a depreciating asset that loses 35% of its value the second you drive it off of a parking lot. And that same brand new car that you bought for that brand new car smell, literally every year is losing about 15 to 20%. The biggest and dumbest financial mistakes, typically speaking, that most Americans make outside of going to out-of-state colleges and not paying for college the correct way, is essentially buying or leasing a brand new car. In my personal financial journey now, I've essentially tried to buy used cars for the last 10 to 15 years of my life, because I understood the importance and how much money I was losing by buying brand new cars. And as crazy as it mathematically sounds to me, at one point in yesteryear, the average American middle class person literally judged their finances by how often they could buy a brand new car. The next thing that used to define the American middle class, everybody, but no longer does, is buying or leasing a brand new car every year. Next, the next thing that used to define the American middle class, but no longer does, is getting useless college degrees. See, I'm a little torn on this one, because as a mechanical engineer who also has an MBA, I understand the importance essentially of what an education has meant to me. In my career in engineering, our unemployment rate nationally is about 1.2%, whereas the unemployment rate nationally for the typical American without a college degree is over 5%. As an engineer, I came out of college making a significantly higher salary than most individuals who have been working in corporate America for 10 to 15 years. And on top of that, as an engineer, I literally get a job offer every day to work somewhere else. If you get a degree in science and technology, and engineering and mathematics and healthcare, law, or in finance, you are literally the creme de la creme when it comes to getting jobs, because those are the 21st century jobs. And those are the type of individuals who literally, as I stated earlier, could essentially cuss out their bosses and get a job tomorrow. So whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a doctor, whether you're an engineer, whether you're a mathematician, whether you're a technology major, those are the kind of major, and I also throw in my blue collar, my electricians, my plumbers, my carpenters. Those are the kind of career paths if you go into that you will always have a job. But there is an element, however, to getting the right kind of career or learning the right type of trade. So my heart goes out to the type of individuals who spend $100,000 to get a college major that is useless and that does not give them a job. And unfortunately, in the American middle class, back in the day, having a college degree was essentially a ticket to the middle class. Today, it no longer is. My advice is simple. If you are not getting a degree in science, in technology, engineering, and mathematics, and healthcare, and law, or in finance, and you are not learning a trade, you need to be seriously surgical in regards to what type of degree you are getting. It's something that's going to essentially pay you a livable wage, and it's not going to put you in a lot of debt. The next thing that used to define the American middle class, but no longer does, is getting an expensive but a useless college degree. Next. The next thing that used to define the American middle class, but no longer does, is picking a job that has a good pension plan. The promise of a pension after spending decades at one company literally died in the 1970s, and it ain't coming back. If you watch my channel, you will know that I am a tremendous proponent of having multiple streams of income. And you should have your full-time job and your side hustle that you are doing a couple hours every day after work. You should be looking to drive Uber Eats. You should be looking to train kids on the side. You should be looking to tutor kids on the side. You should have your side hustle. And you should have this side hustle wrapped into an actual EIN number that you build with LegalZoom.com, or that you go online and you basically purchase. You have an actual registered certified business. And if you follow my channel, you are well aware that I advise my clients and my listeners to max out their Roth IRA, their HSA, their 401ks every year that they possibly can. Next thing that used to define the American middle class but no longer does is working for a company that gives you a good pension and retiring with that pension plan. Also, please hit the notification button so you know when I drop new content. Please hit the like button, please share the video, and please subscribe. If you're interested in sending your kids to college for free, please check out my scholarship book. It's gonna pop up about right here. I talk about how I got over $300,000 to obtain my engineering degree for free from undergrad. Next. The next thing that used to define the American middle class, but no longer does, is that good China set. Now, this one I do kind of to some extent miss, because back in the day, and I say back in the day, I'm talking about like literally 10 or 15 years ago, every Christmas or Thanksgiving, mama or grandma would put out that good China. And she would put out that good set of dishes and everything that you eat off of, typically around Thanksgiving, Christmas, sometimes around the 4th of July. And I actually kind of missed this a little bit because there was a kind of quaint hominess to it that no longer exists, because of my generation, us millennials and Gen Zers, we can care less about that. We literally go to IKEA, we buy some plates that kind of match, and we keep them moving. But China is one of those things that used to define the American middle class. And it's kind of interesting because this is actually one of those things that I do kind of to some extent miss, because it, as I said earlier, it brought a certain warmth to our home that I see is kind of disappearing as our parents and our grandparents are unfortunately aging and passing. So while I bemoan this particular era of a lost era of the middle class, to me, this shift, honestly, in regards to millennials and us Gen Zers, it reflects frugality, us being parsimonious, and it also is a complete rejection that useless showboat purchases, kind of to some extent, don't matter anymore. The next thing that used to define the American middle class but no longer does is owning a nice, expensive China set. Next, the next thing that used to define the American middle class but no longer does is having that dope display of your DVDs for everyone to see. What's crazy is that I actually remember this from my high school days, because in the early 2000s, you could literally walk into somebody's crib, somebody's house, and you would see DVDs, Rambo, Predator. You see all these DVDs pretty much stacked, and from there, you could literally determine kind of what a person was about. And it was actually pretty cool. It was kind of a flex and everything. But in 2025, with the prevalence of Hulu, Netflix and Chill, Disney Plus, and things like that, it honestly does not make any sense to have a DVD collection anymore. And what's sad is that to some extent, I do kind of miss the good old days in this respect. Back in the day, sometimes you could watch a movie like Gladiator, and then you could watch the extras of it on the second portion of the DVD. And the making of the movie and the behind the scenes commentary was sometimes better than the actual movie was itself. And I kind of miss that because you don't really see that as much on Netflix. You don't see that as much on Hulu. You don't see that as much on Paramount. But at the end of the day, everybody, the era of people having a robust DVD collection in their living room is over, and it's not coming back. Next, the next thing that used to define the American middle class, but no longer does, is having that matching furniture set. So the love seat, the armoire, the chair, the shrunk, all this kind of stuff. Back in the day, of my parents and my grandparents' generation, when you walk in somebody's house, they had the matching love seat, they had the matching armchair, they had the matching everything. It was this very nice collection of furniture. Millennials and Gen Zers, we don't do that. Let's just cut right to the chase. But this is also one of those things that I understand why we don't do it, because in the prevalence of today's society, as far as how much you move, how expensive housing is, and things of that nature, It does not make nearly as much sense, given the fact that we're taking jobs all over the country, we're moving a lot more frequently, and a lot of us sometimes even leaving the country. It doesn't make as much sense to kind of have this nice, robust set that our parents and our grandparents used to have. Having said that, this is an element of the American middle class that I find is kind of drifting and going away everywhere, especially with the fact that a large percentage of us live in very expensive, large, crowded cities. We just don't have the space for this. But this is another one of those things from the middle class that's kind of disappearing that I kind of wish would kind of come back a little bit. The last thing that used to define the American middle class, but no longer does, is the middle class choosing to actually live and retire in America. So on Financipation, I am a proud capitalist and I'm an unadulterated lover of the United States of America. Having said that, I'm also a realistic person. If you can essentially figure out a way to create a career where you live on Mexican pesos, but you get paid American dollars, that is a very sexy and a very attractive lifestyle to a lot of Americans. And as a result of that, a lot of Americans, particularly ones that look like me and a lot of Americans that are educated and that can work abroad, they're choosing to do that. We factor in the gun violence in the United States of America, the civil unrest, the racial issues, the cost of healthcare, the rising cost of schools, the cost of housing, inflation, and just in general, some of the things that are kind of going in the United States of America. A lot of people that are Gen Zs and millennials, particularly the ones that are college educated and that are professionals, they are once again choosing to take careers in Mexico, in China, in Portugal, Canada, in the UAE, in Dubai, and places like that, and they are taking their talents elsewhere. Now, as I stated earlier, I will say this and I will always say this about the United States of America. This is literally the greatest country in the world when it comes to building generational wealth. And the numbers back that up, as in almost 1 out of every 11 Americans is a millionaire. Having said that, a lot of Americans, for all the reasons that I posted earlier, particularly in the middle class, are choosing to take their talents elsewhere because they realize that it is, to some extent, easier to build generational wealth when you go abroad. This is obviously something that's going to continue over the next couple of decades, and to some extent, it already happened in the United States of America. If you take a look at the amount of African Americans that fled the South during the Great Migration from 1920 to 1970 to escape Jim Crow, and now they reside in northern cities like Chicago, like Cleveland, like Baltimore, like New York, like DC, and like Los Angeles. So at the end of the day, if people feel like they cannot make it in one location, particularly the most entrepreneurial, the most professional, the smartest and the hardest working individuals, they have no problem taking their talents to part of the country or to some extent to another country that actually respects them. And it's been very interesting to just kind of see how this thing unfolds over the next couple of decades. The last thing that used to define the American middle class, but no longer does, is Americans deciding to live and retire and work in the United States of America. This channel, everybody, is all about making money. It's all about saving money. It's all about building generational wealth, and it's all about financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty. On this channel, everybody, I give you a 6-figure MBA level worth of investing in financial knowledge. You can book a one-on-one session with me at any point. I am not giving you financial advice. You must make responsible decisions based on the thorough, independent research that you do for yourself, okay? And thanks for listening, everyone. Also, please check out my website, www.therealfinancipation.com. Check me out on Instagram, @thereal_Financipation. My Spotify is Financipation, and my TikTok is Financipation, and my Facebook page is Financipation as well. Also, please check out my blog, Financipation. And lastly, please check out some of my digital and my e-products below as well. This is the notification button, everybody. I drop new content every week, and it's your boy Chris. I'm out. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and it's your boy Chris. I'm out. Peace.